This is Mari Elaine on the Buying Space channel. Today I am reading in Romans chapter 9, starting in verse 13. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. For he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on those I will have compassion. So then it is not out of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of God that showeth mercy. For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, and I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout the earth. Therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will be hardeneth. Thou wilt say then unto me, why dost ye yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will? Nay, but, O man, who art thou that repliest against God? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Hast thou not the potter power over the clay, of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor, and another to dishonor? What if God, willing to show his wrath, and to make his power known, endureth with much long-suffering the vessel of wrath fitted to destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy which he hath afore prepared unto glory, even us, who hath called not of the Jews, but also the Gentiles. He has said also, O see, I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not her beloved. And it shall come to pass, that the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there shall be called the children of the living God. Esaias crieth concerning Israel. Through the number of the children of Israel be in the land of the sea, and remnant shall be saved. For he will finish the work, and cut it short in righteousness, because a short work will be the Lord make upon the earth. And as for Esaias said before, except the Lord of the Sabbath, and had left as a seed, that we've been a Sodoma, and been made like unto Gomorrah. What shall we say then? That the Gentiles, which followed not after our righteousness, but have attained to righteousness, even the righteousness which is of faith. But Israel, while followed after the law of righteousness, had not attended to the law of righteousness. Wherefore? Because they sought it not by faith, but as were by the works of the law. For they stumbled at stumbling stone. As it is written, Behold, I lay in Sion a stumbling stone, and a rock of offense, and whosoever believeth on him should not be ashamed. There should be an explanation of a little bit of history here. I have been reading about Jacob and Esau, the two twin brothers of Isaac and Rebekah. And these two twin brothers were at odds their entire lives. And Jacob received the blessing and Esau did not. And after Jacob's descendants went through slavery in Egypt and came out, the Edomites, Esau's descendants, had a large territory and power and kings and dukes and on, and had established a region all to their own, a large region. And yet, when God's people, the people that received the promise, came back through after exiting Egypt, Moses was told that none of the Edomite land was to be taken. None of Esau's descendants were to be harmed because they were brothers. They are brethren. And the Edomites wouldn't let them go through their lands. It's part of the reason they wandered around for 40 years in the wilderness, because they could not go on Edomite land. Moses and the Israelites destroyed many of the civilizations, conquered them around the Edomite territory, but they were not to touch the Edomites because they were brethren. And Esau was known to be a wicked man. He had at least 6 wives. He rebelled against his parents, even though he did honor his father. He did obey his father. His mother was unhappy because of his wives, because he married Canaanites and the daughters of Ishmael. And they were not in good relations with her, because she wanted her generations to be like those of Jacob, under the promise and circumcised. So here is God showing favor to the Edomites, the descendants of Esau, over the expense of God's chosen people. But here we are in Romans in the New Testament, and Paul is using that history, that understanding that happened. If you're a modern person, you're not a Bible scholar, you're not realizing that as you read this, that he is comparing the respect that was still given the Edomites when it was at the expense of the Israelis, to compare what the Jewish people at the time, the new Jewish Christians, the Masonic Christians, they were all Masonic Christians in the beginning until the Gentiles were accepted in, to show that the current Christians who were formerly Jews should accept the Gentiles as God's people too. That was a big leap. That was one of those social things too, like, a Roman statesman's daughter doesn't marry a slave, kind of big, because they didn't have anything to do with the Gentiles a lot of times. They were separated out because the bloodline of Jacob had been isolated in slavery, and before that chose not to marry or intermingle with other nations, other cultures. They stayed within the 12 tribes as far as marriage, as far as accepting them as part of the promise. And now in the New Testament, after Jesus has sacrificed himself on the cross, died and resurrected, these people are being asked to accept the Gentiles. That was huge. So that's why Paul pulled from the story of Jacob and Esau, because the people knew that. They knew what had happened in the wilderness. They knew what had happened with the brothers way back when Abraham's family was just becoming established, before the 12 sons of Jacob, before the 12 sons or princes of Esau, or right at that generation. They knew all of that. And that's what Paul used to illustrate the acceptance of the Gentiles. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone.